Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for a recording of a productive conversation. We are live, and as things happen when we are live, we just kind of go with the flow, and we're gonna get going underway here soon. We're just waiting for Karina to join us. We've got the book right here, Teams That Meet the Moment. And I'm excited to have this conversation. I've gone through elements of the book, and as a writer myself, I think it's really important to go through and kind of read as much. If you can read the whole book, read the book. And what I loved about having this conversation, or at least the outreach that we had with Karina and her team, is the meaning of like teams that are actually navigating these uncertain times. And that's what the subtitle is: 9 practices for unlocking performance and growth in uncertain times. And realistically, right out of the gate, one of the things that caught my attention was the dedication. And I'll read it to you just so that you have a sense of what we're talking about here. So the dedication is for all of you who carry the stubborn hope that work can be better. So right off the top, that had me intrigued. There's more to that dedication than that, but that was the one I really wanted to focus on, is for all of you who carry the stubborn hope that work can be better. We're in and I don't think it's unique to these times, but there are certain scenarios where we get caught up in the numbers. We get caught up in the doing and of the work, and we don't necessarily connect with the work itself, or the being involved with the work, the team, again, especially when it comes to working in teams. And the stubborn hope is, it's almost like Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill, right? The idea that we're going to keep pushing, and it's going to roll back, and it's taking this effort, and we're pushing and pushing and pushing. And when it's an individual that's doing this, it's really, really challenging to bring it to the sense of, for example, and I can only speak for the work I do at this point, but the idea that productiveness versus productivity, right? Like, or saying that you're going to manage your relationship with time rather than time itself. Those challenges, that there is like a level of pushing that rock up the hill because you're going up against tried and true practices, the way we've always done things, et cetera, et cetera. And what I appreciate about the idea of meeting the moment is that moments change. Moments, they come, they go. Different eras lead to other situations where, the moment has changed, or a new moment has arisen. So when you've got this nimbleness here, when you have a team that can be nimble and meet the moment, this will do what Karina suggests in the book: unlock performance and growth in uncertain times. I'll go through some of the elements of the book here as well. And by the way, you can check out the link in the description here to get a sense of where you can pick up the book as well. Page 2, as always, designs some really nice books. So it's divided into 3 parts. The first part is organizing for impact. There's 3 chapters in that. I love symmetry too. There's three chapters per part, and there are 3 parts. The second part is deciding in uncertainty. That's a big one. When we have uncertainty, how do we make decisions around that instead of standing still? And then the third part is designing for learning. And this is where, again, you put yourself in a position where there's that growth element that's taking place. I'm excited to have a look through this book in greater detail, because each of these chapters offers a practice of sorts. And I think that understanding that, making, using that prescriptive and practical elements, I think is really valuable, because when you're working in team situations, especially when you are leading a team, or if you bring this to the team, I think that's where we end up having to say, okay, how do we bring this to a team? How do we make this something that we can do rather than something that we just talk about? Or how do we make it so that ultimately, the team doesn't necessarily struggle with it, or for maybe a better way to phrase it, is that they don't run away from it, but they embrace it. And now, what better way to get into this book than to have Karina joining us right now? So we're going to bring her in here, and let's get this going. Again, we are live, and let's do this right now. All right, Karina, welcome. Nice to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I was just doing a bit of a preamble before we got into it. Again, we're doing a live stream. So, I mean, what we've discussed so far, for those that are watching the live stream, that stuff is not going to appear in the episode. We just do a bit of a preamble before we get started, and we'll get into the conversation now. That'll be part of the episode. If you have any questions or thoughts or things that you'd like to ask, you can let us know in the chat, and we will most certainly be able to kind of look at them, see if they apply. Not every question, not every comment's going to make the show, but nonetheless, let's get going. So, Karina, first off, thanks so much for joining me for a productive conversation today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. So the book is called, as I said earlier, the book is called Teams That Meet the Moment, 9 Practices for Unlocking Performance and Growth in Uncertain Times. And I was just saying during the preamble that the book is symmetrical in a lot of ways. Three chapters per part, 3 parts. It's almost as if you know how teams work and how organizations love to have that, like, it's this way and this way, this symmetrical aspect. I want to get into, right out of the gate, the dedication, which I alluded to again during the preamble here during the live stream. For all of you who carry the stubborn hope that work can be better, it almost sounds like when you wrote that, it was, kind of like this, this, can you explain why that dedication? I mean, I felt it. Can you share a little bit about that dedication?
I think a lot of people are experiencing right now that the world of work feels hard. It feels exhausting. Change is constant. It feels like you can't get a leg up. And I think that a lot of people actually deeply believe in what it is that they're trying to do. They believe in what their organizations are trying to accomplish. They have a personal set of values and a mission. And something I often say is like, the things we're trying to do are hard enough. The work itself shouldn't be so dang hard. And so and I'm an optimist. The hopeful part of me says that we can have work that's good for people and good for outcomes. And that if we stubbornly hold on to that belief, the thing that we spend, frankly, most of our lives doing wouldn't have to feel like such a grind.
Are those lies that you mentioned in the introduction, are those some of the things that can really weigh on those? Like, you have to be stubborn to almost get through those lies, and share a couple of the lies that are in it. Because I read those and I'm like, I was nodding my head when I'm looking at them.
Yeah. Organizations are, rightfully so, obsessed with what drives performance. And I think they spend a lot of time talking about things that are important but not sufficient. And I say this, it's lies we love. I mean it. We love these things. And there's a reason we love them. They're so alluring and so hopeful in and of themselves. The first lie is we just need a better strategy to win. And, I've spent a lot of time inside organizations. I have seen organizations spend 18 months and $1 million building a new strategy only to set it on a shelf because their teams cannot execute it. And I think that is a waste and also so painful for the people inside an organization who love that strategy and want it to work. So that's lie number 1. And lie number 2 is that superstar talent leads to superstar teamwork. And I was working with a leadership team, and we spent together 6 months putting new people into every seat on their leadership team. Amazing folks from the top of their industry. And guess what? It didn't immediately turn around the performance of the business that was struggling because
Mm,
it's but insufficient. And I think that's painful for folks that they spend so much time, and it's painful for talent that gets in that seat and then can't figure out how to work together with their fellow leaders to make performance happen. And I think, frankly, the last one is the most insidious, which is that if we just work harder,
yeah.
that one is so deeply exhausting to people in the workforce right now. Grind harder, another set of late night emails, just push through this one next transition. And the reality is, it's never one next transition,
No.
ever. And working harder in broken systems rarely produces better results. And I don't want that for people. And I do believe, and it's like, this is the hill I'm going to die on, that the glue with all of this, the glue between strategy, talent, and good effort is teamwork.
It's funny, as you were talking about, the hill you'll die on, I was actually talking about like the idea of the stubborn work and getting past it. It was like Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill and constantly so the it totally sticks. One of the things that I wanted to get to, and I know that the way that the book is constructed is definitely, yeah, I think you have to fix part one goes into part two, goes into part three. It's not like a book that, I mean, you can refer back to the other parts, but we just finished in my own community, as we're recording this, a workshop. It's a 3-day virtual retreat. And one of the things that we centered on at the end was this idea of cadence. In fact, cadence is one of the principles of productiveness, which is the state of being productive. It's coming out in my book as well. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, let's talk about this, because we don't, to your point, we hear about work harder and you'll get better results, but we don't hear about the need for cadence. We hear about consistency, but we don't hear about it in a sustainable way. So can we dive into that? Because people, I mean, I just had a conversation with Elizabeth Svoboda about this on her book, The Art of Pacing. It seems to me that this is starting to hit the zeitgeist a bit more, not rest, not sleep, not we're hearing, or not even listening to your body clock. We're hearing, let's talk about rhythm. Let's talk about pace. Let's talk about cadence.
I love that. I got to read that book. What was it called
Called
again?
the Art of Pacing. It's as we're recording this. It isn't out yet. It's available for pre-order. It's coming out in June. Yeah.
I'm going to read up on this one. This is a topic that is so near and dear to my heart. I think that one of the grand misunderstandings of teamwork is that we should meet when we need to address something, and that dealing with uncertainty means that we have to get good at scrambling to respond. And what I have found to be true is that actually having a reliable, predictable cadence of knowing when you are going to come together, when you're going to decide, and when you're going to collaborate removes so many fire drills from our life. And I actually think that it's the fire drills, the, oh God, we have to deal with, we got an incoming or something fell apart. No, in a world where you can't have certainty about what's going to happen, you can have certainty that you know you will have a moment together to wrestle with what to do next. And one of the stories I love to tell on this front is how long do you think it took Google to decide to buy YouTube, $1 billion purchase? How long did that take?
I remember hearing about this once. I can't remember. I think I have a feeling it took very little time, but I'm probably wrong. Like it was, I think it was like 3 months.
It was 10 days. And do you know why? This is the lore, and I might not be totally accurate, but what I understand about it is because at the time at Google, they had a cadence of decision making moments. For
Ah,
every 2 weeks, there was a moment where they said, let's decide what needs deciding, even if we don't have perfect information, even if we're not comfortable, let's make the call. And that moment came and they made the call. And if they can do that on $1 billion call, I think we can all do that on the many, many calls and decisions that we need to make day to day. Just make it and then get on and learn. So, oh yes, this absolutely speaks to my heart.
so but when it comes to pacing and cadence, though, I wonder. I think the other thing that could happen, and this goes back to the work harder aspect, is we confuse activity with progress. We confuse like just doing with actually doing right. I mean, we've even confused efficiency in a lot of cases. I mean, in the States, I'm in Canada, but I mean, we saw the Department of Government Efficiency show up, and people are like, well, what were they efficient about, right? And so I also wonder if, and in a team environment, it's really tricky to your point, because everyone has their own, they're working subjectively towards objectives, right? And cadence is part of that. Like there's a nuance to that. So I wonder if, I mean, for example, I thought 3 months, like Google took 3 months. It's like, no, it took 10 days. It depends on, it's circumstantial to a degree. How do you help organizations understand that a lot of this is, and I mean, you've got a whole section on uncertainty, and there's so much of that uncertainty out there. How do you have them navigate these things that they may be a bit more certain about, such as, hey, this person is better at this person needs work in this area, so we're going to give them a bit more of a break in terms of pacing on that front, but we know they're really good at this. Or again, I love to throw out this example a lot, the night owls versus the early risers, or I mean, again, when it comes to meetings and all that stuff, like, I'm not a fan of no meeting days. I'd rather see you have no meetings after a certain time or before a certain time across the week. Like, how do you help organizations, and how does the book address this at that scale? Does it to a degree?
I think it does. I want to start by framing up a mindset shift that I think is important. We talk a lot about individual productivity because I think that's how we learn, right? Like, how do I manage my energy best? How do I manage my time best? But I think in organizational life, the main productivity drain is not at that individual level. It's at the team level. It's at the team habit of how they decide and coordinate and trust and learn with each other. And I think in the way that the organizations that I have seen solve this the best is when they have an approach that is more of a talent flows to work kind of approach.
Okay.
Rather than everyone's stuck in their static job approach. There's a chapter in the book called about breaking free of your org chart and embracing practice that we call team charters. And this is all about how do we bring together people from different functions, different levels of experience together to do the most important work in our business, the stuff that's driving our strategy forward. And the trick is when you do that, you have lots of individual people with different preferences, different strengths, different skills. And what you have to do is make the implicit explicit. You have to write down, what are we doing together? What's our cadence? And how does it match the urgency of this particular work? And that work might not be urgent. And the cadence might be, let's meet once a month, but the work might be on fire. And the work, the nature of the work should drive the cadence. We need to meet every morning, stand up every morning, retrospective every night. So learning to get good at matching your cadence to the nature of the work. But the other magic of the team charter is that we talk about roles, not souls. So when you put together a team, you think, what's all the work that needs to be done? And what skills do we need to make that work happen? And then it's about matching people and their unique talents and their unique capabilities, their unique passions to the right roles in service of what that team needs to do. So I think when you have more of a talent flows to work mentality, you have to be a lot more explicit about how people are organizing themselves, but it creates so many opportunities for people to do their best work in a way that works well for them over time and is more sustainable, frankly.
So how do you get organizations to even get into that mindset? Because some of them are like, they're so steeped in, this is the way we've always done things. This is how, I know you talk about small bets and you get into this learning, like, so it's almost to me like you have to go through this cycle numerous times to just cultivate it, right? Like the meeting, evolution of meetings. I mean, we're learning this even, I think, as we've emerged from this, we were thrust into working from home remotely, and everyone had to do that, to now, let's get everybody back to the office. We're like, well, no. We don't need to maybe there's a way to make this work. It's almost like there's this iterative thing. Would you recommend that somebody who's going through this book, if they can't obviously work with you in your organization, that they go through the book and then say, okay, once you hit a point of friction, you maybe need to go back at that. Like, look at the charter again, or your organization, you feel it's not big enough to have as many teams. Well, what if, like, how do you make that kind of thing work? I'm just curious because I think organizations obviously vary in size. They're subjective just as much as individuals are. So how do they get to that team mentality where they have, it's almost like if I'm looking at this from a day, like a time perspective, there's the day and there's the month and there's the week. What we want is the week. Right. We want that middle, the weeks fit into the month and then the days fit inside of the individuals would be the day. So how do you kind of help organizations understand that the organization itself, sure, it's a big team, but we need these smaller teams in it because that will allow us to grow and to, unlock some of that performance?
I think two things about this. One is a principle we have at August and we recommend to all of our organizations is start by starting. There's no perfect place to start and you can't boil the ocean. So something like picking one team that's carrying an important piece of work that the business is feeling pain around and really wants to unlock something that they haven't been able to unlock before. So the combination of passion and pain is a good one and a good place to start. Mm-hmm. And what I experience is, the book is 9 practices, and I recommend you pick 1 or 2 to start with, right? So charter a team, get going, settle the cadence. Those are 2 of the practices in the book. And then try to get going with your work. You might find yourself 8 weeks into working in that team and it's beautifully chartered and you're referencing back to your charter and all the decision rights are clear and you've got a good cadence and you're adapting it as you go. And then you figure out that you can't make a dang decision because it's actually that part that is frustrating the team, right? So then you're like, okay, I think we need to pick up some more habits and practices. Then it's like open part 2 of the book, which is about deciding in uncertainty and say, how do we now incorporate different ways of making decisions into our teamwork? And what I've experienced also, and I'm curious if this tracks with your experience, mm-hmm. is that I can tell people what to do until I'm blue in the face. And the thing that has been most powerful in every organizational transformation I've ever done is showing people a benefit.
Yeah.
So one team that works in a new way and has an, oh my God, I didn't know we could accomplish that much moment. A lot of my work is about creating FOMO, for better mm-hmm. or worse, right? So when you watch a team do something that the organization's never been able to achieve before, unlock that performance, unlock that growth, other people want to follow along. And they start asking, how did you do that? And you say, let me show you my team charter. Well, how did you get so-and-so to make that call? They don't like it when you say, here's how I framed it. I said, is this, instead of asking if they liked it, I said, is it safe to try? Can I just act and learn? So it's like, we model to each other and we demonstrate value, and that's what makes a movement. And I would like to believe that I could make a beautiful roadmap and take every organization along the same journey, but it tends to be organic and, as you said, cyclical.
Yeah. It totally does. I mean, typically when I'm working in an organization, it's the individuals that come to me or they're working with me. So I'll give you a great example. Is I can say that something is a project versus a task. So the classic example, and this is what David Allen and I've talked about for David Allen first, is, a task is a single step. So if it's more than one step, it's technically a project. You would not believe how many people would not understand what a project is. Like or for that matter, when a project is a task is masquerading as a project or vice versa. So they'll put something on their list like, work on book or write book. Well, that's a project, right? Like, so all of these things. And so a recent example was I did a workshop in the Toronto area, and I said, you need to, look at this thing and break it down into its smallest particles. Like, ask yourself, is there more than one step? If there is, break it down into multiple steps. And what was interesting is that was just a throwaway thing. Like, it wasn't even the core part of what I was discussing. But they did that. And they actually, when I returned to do the follow-up workshop, they told everybody that. So even though I had driven the point home, like, after the fact and as a throwaway to a degree, this person said, I did this, and oh my goodness, I was able to make measured progress consistently. So the project moved forward much faster. So what we should probably do is ask ourselves every single time, is this a project masquerading as a task? If it is, and you're right, it has to be demonstrated. Now, one of the things that I want to ask you about in here is you talk about the retrospective, right? Like that idea of, and I'll circle back here to the learning from mistakes. Would it be wise for an organization to start there, like to look and see, because you even pointed out like there's pain points. One of the things that I've seen over the many years of doing this kind of work, both individually and with teams, is the hesitance to pause and reflect, to review. Progress isn't viewed as it's, I never look forward. I always look ahead. I mean, we've even heard recent interviews where I think it was Mark Andreessen said, "Oh, I have no time. I don't do any kind of introspection. I just keep going." But yeah, exactly. How do you not learn from those mistakes? So would it be, I mean, I almost wonder, and this is why when I said like each of the book is divided up into sections, but maybe for some, they need to start with that last part to be able to figure out what to do with the first part.
It's a great point. I often start an engagement with a retrospective because we can't, that's another hill I'm going to die on. I'm sorry to say, like, we can't go forward without looking back. And here's the retrospective in our practice. It's deceptively simple, but very, very intentionally designed. And here's what I want to say about that. We get used to like the post-mortem. We get used to talking about everything we've done wrong and the blame game. I understand why people don't want to spend a bunch of time blaming and pointing forward. But guess what the first question of the retrospective is? It's what worked?
Yeah.
And that is about working with our brains to help us anchor first on what we're killing. What are we doing well? Because that is honestly the first signal of what we need to do more of. But we have such a human cognitive negativity bias. We get obsessed. So, and again, I'm obsessed with craft. But that second question is, where did you get stuck? It's not what did you do wrong or what did Joe do wrong that you didn't like. It's where did you get stuck? So when we look closely at our past and we ask ourselves, what are our blockages? Where are the friction points? It's not about blame. It's about noticing. That's how we can change the way that we work. That's the unlock, right? And then the third question, what might we do differently? You see the frame shift there from personal to the collective. You see the might is provisional. It's suggestive. It's not definitive. And it opens up this creative space. So, and again, a retrospective that happens at the end of a project, it's too late, my friends. Retrospectives are meant to happen at a regular cadence. So we have to habitualize learning. And I think that those three questions create the atmosphere to really change the game.
That's great. You know what? Words matter. Like they really do. Like language and frame. It's so fascinating because as a writer, and even, when you're in these instances, you need to bring, I had a conversation with somebody about this today where I said, the distinction between a distraction and a disruption really matters because a disruption is external behavior that you could not really have any agency over. A distraction is something that may have disrupted you or interrupted you rather, but you could mitigate it in the future. Like if my phone was to go off right now, that's it's a disruption, but I could have prevented that. So technically it's distracting me. All of that leads to diversion, but it allows us to give ourselves, as you pointed out, grace in the moment. Grace of like, hey, where did you get stuck? Not what messed up or how did we fail or what happened or what was the point of friction? As someone's going through the book, I mean, the language obviously in here is really important, but when you're working with teams, especially, how often do you have to find that you have to either, because they're going to use buzzwords that everybody commonly uses, right? Which that vernacular is fine, but how often are you finding yourself having to go, let's reframe this, let's think of this a little bit differently versus, I mean, because again, that's almost, again, like a Sisyphean, I'm going to mess that up again, but the hill effort. The Greek guy's effort.
A few things spark for me on that, which is I think that shared language is the core force of energy for any movement for change. So one of the pieces of language that we introduce in that second section of the book is this: is it safe to try? And to stop getting people from saying to each other, do you agree? Or is this right? And instead saying, is this safe to try? That language shift has underneath it piles of research, piles of frameworks, all of this rigor. But if you can boil it down to something that people can actually use, that is when you can make an impact. So I think the first thing that sparked for me is, boy, language matters so much for people, and language that resonates and works for them. The second thing that sparked for me is, often I get brought in when people have been saying the buzzwords to each other for about 2 years, do anything about it. So
Yeah.
I came into an organization a few years ago now, and they had as their cultural priority empowerment for 2 years, and they had been banging on about empowerment. And when I came in and I said to folks, "What do you mean by that?" They were like, "We don't exactly know,
Yeah.
but we know we don't like how things are now, the 5 layers of hierarchy and all the approvals and the unclear accountability." So I think it's not about buzzword. It's not that the words are wrong. It's that the say do gap
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
inside
And the problem
organization.
is, yeah, the problem also is that just by displaying it and not living it or adhering to it, you can't conflate that, right? Like, someone who says, I'm going to be better, I'm going to be better. Okay, show me. No, but like it's similar, right? It's again saying that we're going to be efficient, but then, well, how? Well, we've got this thing up here, so clearly that's what we stand for. Well, show us.
I think that is often why I start with leaders. Now, changing the way teams work, you can't only focus on leaders, right? You
Right.
have to enable people at all levels, but leaders role modeling great habits, great practice, using the language, getting uncomfortable themselves is is so important. I mean, one of the things we talk about in the book is what sort of I think about, like the case for imperfection, like
Mm,
letting go of the notion that you can get things right. And often in organizations, perfection is like a delay tactic dressed up as a quality concern.
right.
And this is one that leaders often hold on to the most dearly. So getting a leader who can say, we don't have to wait till something is finished and polished to release it because it will have value, that is more powerful than any training I'm going to do on the notion of progress, not perfection. So, absolutely.
As we get close to wrapping up here, I just want to ask about when you were putting the book together, what was, because obviously when you've worked this practice, you've worked this framework, it's what you do. Was there anything in particular that stood out that was maybe that aha moment, maybe a bit of an epiphany that landed that you hadn't quite either cracked or it came along unexpectedly through the process of writing it? I like asking this question because I know that I've talked to other authors and myself where I'm writing something and all of a sudden something flows out related to the thing I've been doing for a long time. Like, oh, wow, I didn't think, this lands in a different way now. Was there something in here in particular that you can think of that was like, yeah, this is good?
It's an interesting question. I'm gonna take a little side detour, and then I'm gonna
Sure.
come back and answer that. And the side detour is, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, "There's two kinds of authors. The kind of author that writes the book they need to read, like they're writing themselves into their own future,
Mm-hmm.
and some books that are about a moment to write down all the wisdom that has come to pass." And this book is definitely the latter for me. Like, this is a book. I've been at my firm August for 9 years. We've been around for 10 years, and we've been doing this in the trenches. And these are the 9 things Like a woman literally came up to me on the street. I was dropping my kid off for camp. And she was like, you're that safe to try, lady. You did that training for me 6 years ago. I still say that,
Yeah.
and we've been hammering away at this. And this to me is a moment of like codification. That being said, and I'm proud of that because it's hard won wisdom. That being said, the last chapter of the book is about everything beyond the team. It's a book about teaming, and I'm obsessed with teams. My primary focus is at the locus of the team. And if you don't have all the rest of the pieces around that, teams can't thrive. If you don't have individuals who aren't burnt out and know how to forge strong relationships and deal with clients, if you don't have a performance management system that rewards teaming and not just individual growth and development, if you don't have leaders that also know how to support teams, like it takes a village in order to support a team being the engine of driving incredible impact. And writing that last chapter, I definitely had some moments where I was like, God, this is why this work is so hard, because you can start by starting, you can intervene, you can make an amazing team. But if the rest of the system has a different mindset, it'll eat that team up like an immune system attacking a virus. And the work therefore is very hard and complex because of that, to change teaming cultures. So there was definitely an aha and a for me in the last chapter. It's hard.
Last question for you. You brought up the safe to try stuff. So if someone picks up this book and they're getting ready to get into it, what's the thing that you would say would be? I'll give you two options. Either the safest thing to try, or the thing that is safer to try than you would think.
I want to. I mean, first of all, I think the good thing about the book is these are all things that you can just try tomorrow. Like we have a tip at the end of every chapter where it's like something to say in a meeting tomorrow, because a lot of this is about very small habitual change. But there's one chapter called Make a Proposal, which is this like deceptively simple idea, which is that when you're swirling and going, what do we do next? Be the person that says, I propose we, and then put an idea out there and see how it lands. That's one of the practices that I think is so individual. It's just about how I behave and how I think, and anyone can change the future of their organization by making a bold proposal and taking the risk to say something out loud that they think could help. And I think that I would encourage you to open that chapter up and give that a read and see if that's useful to you.
So that hits both. That hits both, really. Both options. You covered both. Karina, thanks so much for joining me today for a productive conversation. The book is called Teams That Meet the Moment, 9 Practices for Unlocking Performance and Growth in Uncertain Times. Where can people pick up the book and keep up with the work that you're doing?
Check out everything about the book at aug.co/book, aug.co/book. The book is available everywhere online. On the website, we have there's an assessment you can take to tell you what kind of team you're on. And we've got some really fun different archetypes for different teams that have different challenges. And we've got some great resources. Like if you want to try a team charter, you can get in there and download a template. If you want to try to facilitate a safe to try decision, we've got instructions to help you with that. We really believe in giving the information away and giving resources away and helping people feel empowered in the everyday.
Thanks for having a productive conversation with me today, Karina. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, we're going to end the live stream here. Thanks to all those that were here. And I know there weren't many questions that came in, but hopefully you had a good time with the conversation. Appreciate you being here. Karina, stick around for a second when we end the live stream. Just want to do a quick, I was going to say post-mortem, but don't worry, it's not going to be any.
Retrospective.
We're going to do an AAR, an after action report. That's what we're going to do. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see. We have another live stream coming up tomorrow, by the way, for those that are here. So check it out. If you don't want to miss anything, subscribe to the channel. hit the notification bell, all that fun stuff. Thanks again to everybody for joining. Karina, thanks again for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you later.